Just pretend with me for 1 second. You're at the altar, and at the altar, you're with your customer. Now, I am not, just figuratively speaking, you're not marrying your customer, but the idea is you courted this customer for a long time. You got them right down to this point where you are at the big day. You're going to say, I do. They're going to say, I do. Papers are going to be signed, and you're going to be married, and they're going to be a customer forever. But then, after this wonderful matrimony, real life sinks in. The honeymoon is gone, and the customer is not happy. You are not happy. What went wrong? In the United States, some of the top reasons for marriages ended in divorce: infidelity, money, ties back to lack of communication, constant arguing, weight gain, unrealistic expectation, lack of intimacy, lack of equality, not being prepared for marriage, abuse, and so forth. Those are some of the reasons, but does that still apply in some way to sales? What I feel that happens oftentimes is that you do not build enough value early on, but it gets by. Midway during the sales process, still not too much value, and at the end, they desperately need something, so they say yes. Eventually, that customer will leave. It wasn't built properly. There wasn't enough value throughout the whole process. And maybe it has to deal with the fact that you just don't know how to. Today, we're going to talk about how you can build value throughout the whole sales process, from finding, converting, and maintaining that customer. We're going to stay together forever. Dum dum da dum, dum dum da dum. This episode is brought to you in part by Maximizer CRM. Personalized CRM that gives you the confidence to improve your business and increase sales. To get a demonstration, go to the show notes and check out Maximizer. This episode is also brought to you in part by Video Jungle Podcast. Learn the ins and outs of the video industry and how it can help you stand out from your competition. To listen to Video Jungle, go to wherever you enjoy your shows and search Video Jungle. Hey everyone, welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this particular episode, you know it's called Sales from the Street. And Sales from the Street is where I interview a sales rep or a sales leader, an individual who can tell us about sales from a seller's perspective, not necessarily a sales expert who's out there. This is someone who's in the trenches. And today, actually, you're going to hear some noises in the background like we're actually on the street. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go to London to do this interview live with Josh, but Josh actually was out in an open area, and it sounds pretty cool that you're hearing this like it's really sales from the street. So he brings up some really good points in the discussion where we talk about how you can build value pre and in the middle and post the sales with a particular prospect. He has some great information, great things. I'm going to link back into the show notes. We won't take up much more time. We're going to go straight and dive into it. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Hey, Donald. I appreciate you having me on. How you doing?
I'm excited to have you, man. We're going to have a good conversation today. We were talking previously about the idea of building value and how we can build value before we meet with the prospect, during our conversation with the prospect, and after our conversation with the prospect. So I'm excited to hear some of your thoughts and insights on that today, Josh. But
Sure.
Before we jump into all the good stuff, why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, man?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I get this question a lot, and I'll be honest, I'm not a big one for sort of autobiographies. So to give you kind of the brief outline, 24 now, I'm the sales director of an 8-figure company based out in Berlin. They sort of do mobile marketing for the game space, so for the mobile game space. And then I've also got a marketing agency that I'm co-founder of in the UK. Just more recently, co-founded an ed tech platform, so like an education technology app, which is a startup in Wales, which will hopefully kind of bridge the gap for younger people to explore new career pathways. So pretty exciting. There's, I guess, 3 companies that I'm involved in right now, but you know, beyond all of the sort of glamorous job functions and blah blah, I'm just a sales guy like everybody else, man. I'm just out trying to earn a few quid, you know.
Josh, you know it's important to sleep, right?
Yeah.
Where do you find time?
I think 24, look 64, film 94. I think that's the real meaning.
Well, dude, man, well, congratulations on all the good stuff that you're doing. It's always empowering to hear how folks like yourself are doing all of that. And this is why it makes you unique fit for this podcast episode. Not only do you run an organization, not only are you part of a sales team, but you're a seller. So you understand this idea of building value. So we're going to talk, let's dive into the first part and talk about how we can build value pre-conversation before I get a chance to meet with the prospect. Sure. Sales reps have a huge difficulty at time because it's like they say, yeah, we're going to build value, but they get in front of a prospect and then it turns into feature benefit pitch, like, and it goes nowhere. So talk to me about that. What can I do to prepare?
Sure. And I mean, I think a lot of the building value piece, it's kind of diluted. I think building value, it kind of gives the sort of general direction for your whole sales process. Building value should be, start to end. It shouldn't be just put together in chunks or pieces. The building value bit is really massive. So the way that I kind of really work on this is kind of approach the sales process in general as like an honest advisor. So when I meet with a prospect, I like to be positioning myself almost as, an additional part of his or her team, and to be giving them, content, information, education, that's ultimately going to help them overcome business challenges. So for me, when I do the majority of my prospecting, it's through LinkedIn. So I like to connect with a prospect on LinkedIn. And the second I do that, I'll then start sending them every couple of weeks, not just going in for a sales pitch, actually sending them, whether it's articles, whether it's videos, whether it's press releases, sending them content that I know offers value to them. So then straight away they're thinking, wow, I don't know this guy. He's not just done the traditional salesy thing of, chuck a sales pitch my way, ask for a deal the first day we've met. This guy's providing me upfront value, which builds trust. It builds credibility. And I mean, the idea is the best way to do it is obviously make sure that the content that you're sending across to a prospect is obviously really relevant. So I guess the more interesting part that people will want to know is, where do I get this sort of content from? And how do I know what sort of content is relevant? So the way I always say, you should kind of narrow down your sort of prospect list to, say, one industry to start with. So be really, really narrow and focused on a specific prospect or an audience group that you want to hit. And obviously with that, you'll know if I'm approaching a CMO of a retail company, obviously I know then that there's going to be set challenges facing a chief marketing officer of a retailer. So what I would do, I'd go on either Google Alerts and I'll set up an account there, and I'll obviously use keywords. So I'll type in retail marketing or, ways to reduce cart abandonment, really relevant challenges that I know these guys are facing. And then obviously Google Alerts will ping me an email every day then saying, right, this piece of content's come up. So I can just pop in there. It doesn't take me any time at all. It's automated. And I can just send that straight through to my prospect, knowing it's going to be super relevant. And the other really good one is Feedly. So it's a content aggregator. I'm not sure whether you've used Feedly or know much about it, but it's more or less the same sort of thing as Google Alerts. So it's a platform where you would type in, marketing for small businesses, marketing for big businesses, whatever it is that whatever type of company that you're trying to reach. And again, it will aggregate specific content that you then know is going to be relevant to the prospect. So that for me has been the real backbone, to be honest, of setting up qualified meetings consistently. So building value up front, sending these guys really relevant, honest and helpful information before I've even told them what I do, who I am, just to build massive value and trust. And I mean, it's something that I guess you should do, in my opinion, over the course of, say, about 30 days. And it sounds somewhat counterproductive because people say, well, why do I want to wait 30 days to set up a meeting with a prospect? And I get it. You don't have to. You can pick up the phone, you can cold call, you can do what you want. If you're looking to close deals quick, then maybe this isn't the ideal way of doing it. But for sure, if you want to sort of have a consistent process where rather than, getting, 5% of your meetings booked in from cold calling or, 15% on LinkedIn just by sending a cold email, if you can do this process, generally speaking, you're going to get 25, 30%, maybe even more, the people that you're sending the value to have a meeting with you within 30 to 60 days. It's qualified, they trust you, you've built massive value on the front end. So then obviously the sales part is a million times easier.
There's I like that idea. You gave us some tools and we're going to put those in our show notes. Feedly, Google Alerts, and so forth. But some people will tell me, and maybe you can address it, how do I make sure that I'm not sending that, even though the stuff that I'm sending, like I'm sending them stuff and I'm trying to be top of mind, I'm not like every other seller, because they probably have like 5 or 6 other really good sellers who are doing the same thing. They're sending them, articles and things like that. A lot of people are doing that nowadays. Is there somehow I can make sure that content that I send actually pops and to that prospect, as opposed to just,
yeah, of course. I think one of the things that's helped me do that is look at industry events. So look at industry events that that your sort of prospects are going to. And then obviously you'll see the tracks for the roundtables, you'll see the topics of discussion on the panels and things like that. So that's going to give you a really good idea on the challenges that they're facing. I mean, I don't think that there's a massive problem with if you're sending content similar to what somebody else is necessarily sending. I think the idea is, as long as you're sending content that is of value, that is going to help them overcome a challenge that they're facing, I think you're absolutely fine. And the whole point is, this is just a value add up front. This is just a way for you to open the door. This is just a way to start a dialogue, get a bit of conversation, get some engagement with the prospect. And by doing it in a way where you're providing value completely free, it just makes the conversation moving forward a million times easier. So I would just say, be mindful of the places that you look in. So get yourself a general direction of what content you want to send. So, I mean, obviously you've probably got a network of prospects that you already have. Ask them, what challenges are you facing right now? What sort of content would be of value to you? And then obviously you can kind of mirror what they're saying when you're sending it to the new prospects. And the obvious thing is, measure and optimize what you're doing. So if you're sending content, don't just send it and forget about it. Track what you do. So I would say, right, on Monday I sent this piece of content to this person, and I would send maybe the same piece of content to, say, 10 people, and then a different piece of content to another 10 people. And you've just got to track the effectiveness. So how many of them got a response? What happened from that response? And then obviously that's going to give you a better direction then of, right, okay, this topic was better received. So this is obviously a hotter topic right now. And the idea is just be on top of it. And the other thing with Google Alerts is, if you're really quick to react, you're probably going to send it quicker than what the other competing salespeople are as well.
And I think one of the things too that naturally come from it is, even if you are sending stuff and somebody else send the same exact thing, what happens is that you stand out at least from most of the other competition who aren't doing it at all. Even if I don't read it, it's just the fact that Josh sent me something on an email. Josh thought about me enough to send that, like, this Josh kid sounds cool. Let me talk to him or whatever. When you do send that invite.
100% agree. I mean, you'll get it. I get it. Everybody gets it. Every single day you'll get an email, you'll get a message on LinkedIn, and it's just like, hi, let me introduce you to my company. I do outsourced IT, blah, blah. And they send you a huge story on what they do with 10 links to different drop boxes of previous work they've done. And you don't read it. And it's just, they're kind of what I call transactional salespeople. The only time that they speak with you is to transact with you. And obviously that's the end goal for all of this. But the idea is, you've got to differentiate yourself somehow from that 99.9% of just transactional salespeople. So by really focusing on the front end, by being a valuable asset to that person, by being an honest advisor, you're straight away, you're positioning yourself just slightly differently, which makes a massive impact.
What about, I got the prospect, I have an appointment with them, I'm going to meet with them for the first time. How can I ensure that I'm bringing value to that meeting with the prospect?
Yeah. So I think it's important to try and create urgency around your product. Because the ultimate thing is, obviously, if you're selling a product to whoever, then your product, your solution is obviously helping that prospect achieve something, overcome something. It's going to be of value to them. So I think what you've got to do is try to eradicate the sort of time that it takes from that meeting to close the deal. And the best way to do that is by creating a real, honest, natural urgency story around the product. Now, obviously, there's a million ways you can do it. Some aren't as good, some aren't as believable. But the idea is, obviously, the more credible your urgency story is, the better it will be. So, for example, if you're selling an event or you're selling a webinar, whatever it might be, when you first meet the prospect, kind of set the expectations at the start. Don't leave it to the back end, because this is where a lot of salespeople run into problems. Because what they'll do, they'll go through the pitch, and then right at the end, they'll be like, right, I've only got 2 spaces left for this event. This deal needs to be done today because this price, I can't hold the price any longer, blah, blah. And then it kind of, you lose the credibility. So I think the main thing here is kind of flip the switch. Do everything that you traditionally do at the back end of the pitch, move it to the front end. So just be completely upfront and honest with the prospect. Look, I want to talk to you about this marketing event. We're working with 100 other CMOs from, X retailers across Europe or wherever. I've only got 2 spots left. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you. Do that right at the start. Set the expectations. Because equally, if it's not an interest to them then, if it's not something that they want to pursue, you've not wasted their time, you've not wasted your time, you can go on to the next person. So I think a lot of this is flipping the switch, set expectations to build credible, believable urgency up front. That for me, I think is the most important one to build value. And probably as importantly, is ask the hard questions. So, when you're meeting with a prospect, be really direct when you're questioning them at the front end to qualify them. So be really specific with what you're saying. So, what challenges are you facing right now? Why haven't you already found a solution to combat this? What's held you back from doing a deal with my competitor? Get all of the information out from the front end again, so then you can provide more value in your pitch because you've gathered all of this information from them around what challenges, why they haven't done something previously, what they're looking to achieve. You can kind of piece everything together a lot nicer. So that's the 2 things I would say for during the pitch is urgency and the hard questions.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, Josh is going to continue to share with us some of those ideas that you can try to continue to build value throughout the whole sales process. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. The idea of building value, it varies amongst different individuals because value is in the eyes of the buyer. You might think something is valuable, but as the buyer, I think it's valuable. You find out what the buyers want. You create your sales process to go according to what the buyers need. Simple, right? Unfortunately, most CRMs don't give you the opportunity to personalize. This is why I recommend you check out programs and CRMs like Maximizer. They give you the variety and the capabilities that you need to make sure the CRM functions according to the way your customers buy. If you would like to check out Maximizer, go to our show notes. You can sign up and get a demonstration. I think it would be totally worth it for you and your team just to take a look, even if you're not ready to buy it this time. Again, go back to our show notes, click on the link, and sign up for a demonstration. You're going to absolutely love it. As we dive back into the second half of this episode, pay attention to some of these ideas Josh is going to give you. I want you to at least take one thing that you can apply. Let's see if we can help your sales process run smoother and to help turn some of those prospects into longtime raving fans. Love the hard questions idea because there's sometimes I find salespeople, maybe it's just a lack of confidence or whatnot, but they're afraid of asking. Like, think they're going to get slapped in the face or something from the buyer. Like, the buyer's not going to, end your life. Just ask the question.
I think the main thing is if you're sat with a senior executive of a big company, I think what you've got to appreciate is their time is costly. If you've got half an hour of a CMO of a Fortune 500 sat in front of you or on the phone with you, that time is probably a few £100, a few £1,000. So treat it with respect. And by asking the hard questions, there's a thing called peerage. So where people kind of only want to speak to people who are apparently on the same level with them. And it sounds a bit over the top, but in reality, it's true. And, if you're a boss, if you're a CMO, you're going to be very direct. You're not going to have time for small talk. And I think what we need to be as salespeople is the exact same. We need to be asking the hard questions, no time for just kind of weather rapport and things like that. Get right down to the nitty gritty so you're not wasting their time and you can provide the best solution for them first time.
You just closed the deal, or it's not necessarily close the deal, it's post a meeting. You sat with me, we chat, and I'm very interested. We have our next steps and so forth. How do you continue this conversation of value post this initial meeting now?
Sure. This is the most important part of the sales part for me. This is where your conversions either double or stay the same. If you can't put together a value building process after you've pitched the prospect to keep the sort of excitement there, to kind of close the deal quicker, you're not going to be successful as a salesperson. So how you do that, there's a couple of really cool ways. Now, Obviously, when you're in your sales pitch, I'd like to think that you're writing notes down. You're kind of gathering as much information around the prospect as possible so you can understand more about their challenges. So one thing I would do is kind of give them a bit of a free consultation post the meeting. So obviously I sell marketing solutions. So kind of during the pitch, I'm understanding what challenges that these guys are facing, what channels they're looking to reach their customers on, blah, blah, blah. And maybe then just put together a little overview of the meeting that you've had with them and just some free solutions that doesn't cost you anything, but just some free suggestions that they can implement into their business today that is going to help them somewhat. I think that's something that you should do within 24 hours of actually having the pitch. That is something that probably nobody else does. So straight away, you've written your notes, you've understand the challenges, put together a little explainer on, the conversation that you had and just 3 or 4 things that they can do to add impact to their business straight away. Do that completely for free. That's going to build massive credibility. And the other thing I really like to do, and I know this is probably more popular actually in the States than it is in the UK, and I'm not sure whether it's because we're camera shy, follow up with video. This has been such a fast growing thing. I mean, since I've been using this, I think my conversions have probably doubled, and that isn't a sort of an exaggeration number. Follow up with video. So straight away after you've met with a prospect, get on your mobile phone and send them a video of you talking about the discussion and setting up the expectations for how you want to follow up. So, if you leave kind of the process to them, you might get an answer in a week, you might get an answer in a month. It depends, obviously, how well the sales pitch went. But I think if you can get on a video and then say, look, it was fantastic to meet you last week, John. I really appreciate your time. Great to understand that you're facing X challenge, or great to hear about, you're looking to overcome X challenges, and interestingly, what you're going to be looking to do for the rest of the year. Just had a thought actually following our discussion on something that we could do additionally to help you. Let's have a call next week. That's one thing I always do, because then you can get them back on the phone a week after you've pitched them to close the deal quicker. I mean, obviously with sales, it's all about touch points. So I think the actual number now is it's something like on average 12 touch points with a prospect before a deal is closed. And obviously you've got other people within the decision-making process as well that you've got to pitch. So the idea is after you've pitched the person, don't just kind of finish the dialogue over email and expect the deal to close. Try and get back in conversation or meeting them face-to-face as quickly as possible. And obviously, if you can do that with video, if you've met a prospect in person, they're going to buy into you more, obviously, because you can see them. There's a better sense of emotion. You're going to be way more able to get more from it. So if you can kind of carry that emotion when you're back in the office, they're back in their office. If they can see you, they can feel your energy with a video. Again, it's just going to build way more relationship with the prospect, and then the chance of getting them back on the phone is just going to increase again 1,000,000 times. So there's another kind of platform I'll give you guys to use for that.
Sure.
It's called Wistia.
Yeah.
WIS. Do you use that?
Love it. Love Wistia.
Fantastic platform. You don't need to be a professional video editor. It doesn't even need to be the most beautiful video. You don't need to be in the middle of Hyde Park or wherever. Just in your office, natural environment. You just record it on your phone, upload it onto Wistia. It's completely free. And then obviously you just send it as kind of a little link to the prospect, and then they get to watch it. And the cool thing is as well is the stats with Wistia, right? So you can see when they've watched it. If you're sending this maybe to a couple of different people, you might be sending it to the 3 or 4 people involved in the decision-making process. You can see when they've actually watched it, how long they played it for. There's so much data that you get from that then to be able to understand, how effective was that video? Why did they always pause after 3 minutes? You can see where it might have lost a bit of engagement. Or, for example, you might see all of them played at 100%. Fine. You've hit the nail on the head. The video went well. It's also going to give you kind of a general direction for how to continue following up better with the prospects that you deal with moving forward.
Love it, man. If there's one major takeaway you'd like folks listening to this episode to walk away with, what's that one piece of advice?
Make value your sales process. Don't just think about it in micro chunks. Become an honest advisor. That, for me, is the biggest thing that you can take away from all of this. Become an honest advisor. Consultative approach is always going to work better.
Great, man. Thank you so much. Now, you just recently, you'll be launching a book here in the next couple of weeks, right? You mind telling us about that for me? 2 weeks.
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Big news. So yeah, obviously I'm no Enid Blyton, right? So it's not a beautiful story. this really is kind of a hardcore sales book. So the book itself is about LinkedIn. Like I said earlier, I do the majority of my prospecting on LinkedIn. So what this book is quite literally a blueprint or a manual on exactly how to generate 10 plus qualified meetings every single month with decision makers. That's the whole point of this book. And what it does, it actually takes you through the exact process that I use every single day, how long you should be spending on things, how you track and optimize it. It really does show you even the messages that I'm sending to people, how you can get a connection request, well, a connection acceptance rate of like 80% is what I'm getting at the moment. I'll show you the exact things that I'm using to do that. And it's broken down into a little book. It's like 100 A5s. It's not over the top. It is quite literally from start to finish, simple, easy to use guide. So the second you've got it in your hand, if you bought it today, quite literally tomorrow, you'd be seeing an impact in your business. So that's the book. It's going to be coming out in 2 weeks. I mean, you can pre-order it now, actually. The website is linkedinmentor.com. And obviously because it's on pre-sale, it's cheap. I mean, it's cheap. It's going to be cheap anyway. But right now, if you buy it on pre-sale, it's a whole £10 for the A5. So
not breaking the bank. That's not bad.
No. I mean, it's certainly not going to be the thing that makes me a millionaire. That's a sure thing. But yeah, I mean, if you can't invest a tenner to guarantee yourself 10 meetings every single month via LinkedIn, then, I can't really help you.
Well, this is very valuable, man. I sure appreciate it. If folks out there want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Instagram's probably the best way. So it's at JoshSmith369, or obviously get me on LinkedIn, Joshua Smith, and I'll pop up there.
Awesome, man. Well, we sure appreciate you coming on the show today, Joshua. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Listen here, I hope you enjoyed this episode today as much as I did. If you would like to connect with my good friend Josh, go to the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode number 904. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode number 904. Connect with Josh. He has some great information. He actually has a course coming out, and he has some more very, very powerful content that I would highly recommend that you connect with him about. Find out more about Josh, go to the show notes. And while you're on the link as well, schedule a demonstration with Maximizer. I think you're going to really appreciate the CRM. Even if you just take a peek, see what it's like, it can help you tremendously in your sales efforts and to make sure you're focusing on your customers. Again, to find out more, go back to the show notes, thesalesevangelist.com/the word episode number 904, or just swipe up on the cover art of this particular episode and click on the link. As always, we share stuff like this because we want to help you. We want you to find more ideal customers. We want you to build stronger value. We want you to close more deals. But most importantly, it is to go out each and every day and do big things. Stay tuned for a scene from our next episode. When it comes towards not getting a true buying intention, I cannot tell you how this affects your sellers all the time. When I interview folks for TSC Hustlers League, one of the things I have them do is fill out a survey, and then I sit down and I talk to them. But one of the things that they have difficulty with is feel like they're not building enough value. And what it comes back to is really that they don't know the buying intention or the true reason why the buyer is buying their product. I hope you enjoyed this episode today as much as I did. And if you did, I would ask you, if you haven't done so already, just subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a rating and review as well on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or Stitcher. Show your coworkers how they can download the podcast as well. It would be greatly appreciated. Our episode today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited and mixed together by the one and only Mr. Jershon O'Bale. Our content writer and show note creator is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits for this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.